Ehlers later on. Forsling setting up for Ehlers. He scores! What a play! The captain to Nikolaj Ehlers, who doesn't miss. And it's 1-0 Carolina. Then into it. Lock inside of the net. Bussi makes the save. Still loose. When the offensive zone draw. Nikishin right away. Rebound out front. They score! Mark Jankowski.
And when the tape-to-tape pass. Oh, what a hit!
A huge hit. And having to answer for it is Sean Walker. Aho back for Ehlers with a backhand pass. He'll go low to high for Aho. Nikishin takes it and scores! What a goal! You could have rode that one to Moscow. What a goal, Alexander Nikishin on the power play.
92 miles an hour. Sponsored by Aeroflot, Russia's national airline. He just absolutely blew it by. Bobrovsky did Nikishin.
Hi, everyone. It's Kate's Corner Podcast. I am Adam Gold. The Hurricanes scored 9 goals tonight. What the heck is going on? First of all, we're brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it is for the exterior of your home, you can find it right there at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hammond Road in Durham. No place like it. Sammy had his crew do a great job. One day I'll show you a picture of my posts. All right, let's aluminumcompany.com. I think I probably already said that. The word that came to mind to me about tonight was cathartic. Because that's what tonight felt like. Two things I think are very important to recognize. The first is that the Florida Panthers were not whole. All right? We understand this. They haven't had Alexander Barkov all year, and they won't. They haven't had Matthew Tkachuk all year, and they're getting him back soon, but they didn't have him tonight. Brad Marchand, who has had an incredible year, has now missed 4 games in a row. Seth Jones, who has also had an incredible year, has now missed 6 consecutive games. That's 4 pretty heavyweight players out of your lineup. That doesn't mean that they weren't good, though, because Florida and their culture are such that they've got a lot of really good players, and much like Carolina, when they're depleted, and they have been, still managed to play pretty well. Is it an excuse to get beat 9-1? No. Is it a reason why you had a hard time with the team playing as well as Carolina was playing? Absolutely. We can be fair about that. So we do keep that in mind. But here's the other thing I want to be fair about. The Hurricanes and the Florida Panthers have now played 185 minutes this year. And Carolina has been the better team for about 150 of them. And I think that's worth pointing out. Carolina led 3-0 in Florida with 10 minutes to play. We all know what happened. 2 of those goals, the second and third goal tied the game, both happened with an extra attacker. Self-inflicted wound for Carolina on both of those goals. Didn't have to happen. And as I said at the time, Jordan Martinook on the ice, I don't think Carolina loses that game. But he was not on the ice for that game. By the way, a big loss. Carolina was without Will Carrier tonight. I don't think they missed him, but they generally do miss Will Carrier when he's not playing. Didn't have Shane Gostisbehere tonight. That's a loss. Power play only went 4-5. Talk about that later. Second time Carolina and Florida played right here in front of me. Carolina led 2-0. Just a suffocatingly good performance for the Hurricanes that night through 40 minutes. And then unlucky goal off the skate of Alexander Nikishin. Freddie Anderson playing last game before Santa packed up his sleigh. Goal goes in off of Nikishin's skate. Freddie has no chance. That made it 2-1. And then, Katie barred the door. Florida scored 4 goals in a total of like 9.5 minutes, and it was over. That's that. Carolina fell apart. But you don't ignore the first 40 minutes. At that point, Carolina was feeling a little bit vulnerable. They had blown a 3-0 lead in Florida, blew a 3-0 lead in Tampa, coughed up a 2-0 lead at home to Florida. Hey, after the holiday, remember they had a 2-goal lead against Montreal, led 4-2, and lost that game 7-5. Against Colorado, had a lead, and then it blew up in their face. So the Hurricanes have had lead holding issues. Not tonight. Carolina got up 3-1, and as Nick Ehlers said in the locker room after the game, it was probably 1-1 for longer than it should have been. I think he's right. Carolina certainly had a lot of chances. If I go back to my copious notes that I took, let's see. First of all, Carolina's first period lead of 1-0 lasted all of 1:19. Uvis Balinskis, good shot. I think it's maybe a goal that Brandon Bussi wants back. But what happened after the goal? The big save on Carter Verhaeghe. Multiple 30-goal scorer. That was a great save. That save was better than the goal was iffy. Incredible save for Brandon Bussi. And Carolina needed that save because it would have been terrible for the Hurricanes to, at any point tonight, trail in the game the way they had played. Because then that starts getting in your head. So Brandon Bussi, who otherwise didn't have to do a ton, made some very good saves, I thought. But, I mean, the game was played entirely in front of Sergei Bobrovsky. Kept the game 1-1. Then the biggest play of the game was an offensive zone face-off win by Mark Jankowski. And you make it look so easy sometimes when you win the face-off. That's why this is such a big part of Carolina's game. Because what does Carolina want to do? They want to have the puck. They want to make you chase them and wear you down. And if you win, 52, 53, 54% of your face-offs, I think Carolina was about 57% tonight. Well, then you have the puck. Carolina's probably going to get it anyway, but it's easier when Carolina starts with it. Jankowski wins the faceoff, right back to Mike Riley. Riley gets it across to Alexander Nikishin. His shot gets through. Bobrovsky gets the pad out, makes the save, but there's Jankowski, man who started the play, winning the faceoff. Front of the net, just kind of bats it in, and Carolina has 2-1 lead. Before the end of the period, the big hit, Walker on Jesper Boquist. I already talked about a game-changing play by Jankowski. This one took it to
and with a tape-to-tape pass. Oh, what a hit!
A huge hit. And having to answer for it is Sean Walker as he laid out Boquist, and Walker doesn't mind throwing. Walker and Sabrango. They're going to just be tied up. The linesman will get in. But what a hit.
The arm went up from the referee. I think it was on the instigator from Sabrango, not on the hit. The hit looked clean.
The hit was clean. It was an instigator penalty. I guess they just called it roughing rather than go the full instigator, because I guess if it was an instigator, wouldn't there be a 10-minute misconduct? Anyway, doesn't matter to me. That's accounting. Hurricanes ended up with a power play. Alexander Nikishin ended up with a power play goal. Nikishin's slap shot caused 2 goals tonight, both for Carolina, which is good. We're starting to see more good from him offensively. I wished he and Martinook had a 2-on-1, and Nikishin should have shot the puck as opposed to trying to pass to Martinook. I don't mind the unselfish play, but in that position, Martinook is checked. There's somebody there. You don't have a lane to pass him the puck. You might as well just shoot it. Maybe Martinook would get a rebound if you don't score. again, don't hate unselfish play, but sometimes you got to be selfish. Sometimes you got to shoot that puck. Would have rather him done that there, but it's okay. A couple of points for Nikishin tonight helped Carolina get the win. So it's 3-1. We go to the third period, and Kurt Dusterberg from NHL Network, he's the guy locally who writes game stories on NHL.com. So he came in and joined me in the second intermission, and we're like, we've been here before. We've had a 2-goal lead after 40 minutes in this building, playing well, and it unraveled. We've gone to the third period with that lead. We've seen it. How does the movie turn out differently this time? I joked about what was the movie Clue, where you could change the ending. Is that the movie? I don't know. How is Carolina going to change the outcome tonight? Because at some point, it's up to you. It's not up to an official's call. It's not up to anything. It's up to you guys facing the demon, facing your fears, and getting through it. And that's what they did. Look, there was way too many penalties in the third period for my liking, but that's where the game went. And nobody's going to turn down power plays, and all of a sudden the Hurricanes, it was an assault of power play goals. An absolute assault of power play goals. Let's read them because it was crazy. We go to the third period. Svechnikov, power play goal, 4:08 in, 4-1 Carolina. Ehlers, power play goal, 11:17, made it 5-1. That goal, which came at 5-on-3, the next goal is what then made it, okay, this is getting out of hand. Carolina scored early on the 5-on-3. They were going to have plenty of power play time for the 5-on-4. They didn't need it. Stankoven, great pass in front to Taylor Hall, his 10th goal of the season. That makes it 6-1. And then at this point, it's goofy. Ehlers, Hall again, Ehlers again, Hats, Hall again, Robinson late. Hall and Robinson's goals 12 seconds apart. Sergei Bobrovsky saw 35 shots. He allowed 9 goals. But to my initial point, we can't overlook how good Carolina has played against Florida in all 3 games. And I think it's worth remembering. Also, I think it's worth remembering just how dominant Carolina was in the first 2 periods. Forget about the third period. The third period was a gong show. But in the first 2 periods, the Hurricanes, these were the numbers, okay? Shot attempts, 47-15. 47-15 through 2 periods in all situations. We didn't have a ton. We had a few power plays both ways, but it wasn't like what was going to happen in the third period. Where, let's see, in the third period, there were 8 minutes and 56 seconds of 5-on-5 time. Less than half the period was spent at 5-on-5 in the third period. But through 2 periods, 47-15 shot attempts, 24-5 scoring chances, 24-5 scoring chances. Shots on goal, 23-8. I mean, that's really all you needed through 2 periods. According to Natural Stat Trick, expected goals for the Hurricanes, basically 3-2, almost 1, which is basically the score. But Carolina was dominating the game. Then in the third period, it got kind of goofy. Okay. You deal with the goofiness, but too many power plays, which kind of, it distorts the game. But I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying I would have been happy with all, excuse me, a whole bunch of 5-on-5 time. But this was a cathartic win. It allows Carolina to exercise some demons, to remind themselves that for the most part against the Panthers, they have more than held their own. They have been better. And again, we understand the absences tonight, and we understand the absences all season. Carolina has had to deal with that. Nobody will cut anybody a break. Nobody's feeling bad for another team. Nobody. But Carolina needed a feel-good. The fact that it came against the Florida Panthers is, even better. I did think there were some unsung heroes tonight, and they were all on the back end. How about the fact that every Carolina forward had a scoring point tonight? All of them. Every single one. 12 forwards, all on the score sheet. That's cool. But I thought Keandre Miller and Sean Walker as a tandem were through the roof. Miller, 27 minutes and 30 seconds. 27-30. My gosh. Dynamite play. He was even. I thought he was -1. He was even for the game. Sean Walker only, because he was in the penalty box for 5 minutes. 21-27. 6 hits. Massive game from those two guys. Loved their game. Quick aside. It takes time for a defenseman, no matter how good you are, to feel comfortable playing Carolina's system. I go back to year one of the Brendan Moore era. There were other circumstances. I believe he was dealing with a wrist injury too. But it took Dougie Hamilton about half a year before he became competent defensively. I'm not going to lie and say he was ever good defensively, but it took half a year for him to at least become comfortable in Carolina's system. And then his defensive breakdowns were just, that's the feature of Dougie Hamilton, which is why the Devils are really trying to move on from him. But Miller and Walker were so damn good. The Walker hit on Jesper Boqvist was just ridiculous, but he made 4 or 5 other outstanding interceptions and plays tonight. That pair was phenomenal. Slavin and Chatfield were also really good. So Carolina's top 4, and wait, I thought Nikishin was very good. I thought Riley was good too. When Gostisbehere comes back in Carolina, maybe at one point this year, will have their full complement on the blue line where everybody feels right. And I think at that point, we're going to see a continuation of really how Carolina has played of late. By the way, allowing just 16 shots. And I'm going to ask my man Gary, the stats boy, to see if there has been a stretch for the Hurricanes where they have allowed, although against St. Louis they allowed 31 shots. My bad. 18 the game before that, 12, 13. So this is now 4 times in Carolina's last 5 games where they have allowed fewer than 20 shots on goal. I mean, Canes played their game. I don't think it's a coincidence, by the way, that Jacob Slavin's in the lineup for that. When Slavin's in the lineup, everything just feels better, right? And I love the pairing with him and Jalen Chatfield. Love it. Absolutely love it. And when Slavin's not in the lineup, I think Gostisbehere and Chatfield is also very, very good. But I just wanted to single out Carolina's top 4 guys in the blue line because I thought that game was about them too. Carolina's top 2 lines, and for this case, we'll number them based on defense, the top 2. They allowed 0. They were fantastic tonight. The line that I thought would be Florida's best turned out to be Florida's best. I said earlier in the game that I thought that the matchup between Stankoven's line and Evan Rodriguez's line was, I think, going to tell us the difference in the game. And I thought between Rodriguez and Mackie Samoskevich was tremendous in this game. That line gave Carolina some problems, and they were dealing with Stankoven, Blake, and Hall. But Stankoven, Blake, and Hall also gave Florida problems. But that was the closest thing to being an effective line for Carolina. It did seem that when Florida had a scoring chance, it was generally Mackie Samoskevich. But they only scored one. Couldn't have been that good. But it was. I thought it was their most dangerous line. But Carolina played well throughout. Jankowski, Kokoniemi, Robinson, when they were on the ice, I mean, I thought they were noticeable. Second straight game for that trio to be as impactful as they were. That's really good to see. I mean, it's hard to replace what Will Carrier brings. But I thought, yes, Barry Kokoniemi did a good job tonight. Mark Jankowski continues to win faceoffs. So that's an important 10 to 12 minutes of a game for Carolina to get from that line. So, again, we could probably just go down the roster and say, oh, yeah, he did this. This guy did that. That's the kind of a game it was for Carolina. It was also a physical game tonight. I thought Carolina, and I don't know what the final hit numbers are. It's so subjective. In the first period, they accredited Aho with one hit. I swear to you, I saw three. I don't really care. It ain't that big a deal. But I thought Carolina's best players also played a physical game. And I've said this so many times. A physically engaged Sebastian Aho is a great player. Now, he's a great player anyway, but a physical Sebastian Aho, an engaged, a little ornery Sebastian Aho, which from afar looked like we might have seen a little bit of tonight, and I am here for it. The ornery Aho is a great Aho. It's my favorite Aho. And I thought he played kind of an ornery game tonight. Good for him, because Carolina needs him to, sorry about this, drive the bus. But I thought the physical play, Stahl had 6 hits, Walker had 6 hits, KK had 4. There were a handful of players with 3. So, yeah, Carolina brought their work boots tonight. That's very, very good to see. And again, all 12 forwards were on the score sheet. Remember when Carolina's power play was no good? Seems like a long time ago now, doesn't it? 4 of 5. I guess I'm going to have to do the math here. Carolina was 4 of 5 tonight. Excuse me as I get to the page with the power play numbers. I guess I probably could have done this a lot earlier. The Hurricanes were 28 of 143. They are now 32 of 148. If you allow me, I will add that up. So it's 32 divided by 148. That is now 21.6%. Remember, for a couple of weeks, they were down around 12%. They were at one point, I believe, 31st in the NHL. I don't know where 21.6% is going to end up at the end of tonight, but the Hurricanes have been getting better on the power play, moving the puck a lot better on the power play. What Carolina doesn't have, and they won't have with this team, they don't have an offensive piece like an Artemi Panarin, like a Steven Stamkos or stuff. They don't have bona fide, point gobblers. What Carolina has are a lot of good players. And sometimes that works against you in the playoffs. That's why I think ultimately Carolina still needs a bigger version of Logan Stankoven to center the second line. Stankoven has been very good, I think, as a center, but I'm thinking about the playoffs where your size ultimately is a factor, a major factor. So, but I'm not going to get into the deep philosophical discussions now. We got, I think, 9 more games until the Olympic break. There will be a pocket in there where we can actually sit back and assess. I'm sure Eric Tulsky is working on a lot of different things or exploring a lot of different things. But I still think they need a 2 center. I still think they need another NHL defenseman or 2. And I think they still need a 3rd goalie. Carolina's got to get another goalie option that they can trust. So I can't tell you who that is. I can tell you who I would like to see, realistically speaking, as a 2C. Now, we could talk about Ryan O'Reilly. With Nashville in the hunt in the West, I don't think he's leaving. And there are other players we can discuss as potential fits for Carolina's second line center. But I have no idea if they're actually going to pursue that, but I think they need to. I personally think that Charlie Coyle with Columbus would be a nice fit here. 2-way player, big body, wins faceoffs, right? Kills penalties, all of that. I would love to see Carolina, maybe bring him in. I don't know if Columbus wanted to expand the deal or not, but there are players that would help Carolina on that roster. But ultimately, getting another center, especially a righty, would be huge. Absolutely enormous if Carolina can do it. Real quick before I move on and we wrap this up, Blues beat the Lightning 3-2, so Tampa only gets 1 point. They are now unbeaten in their last 12. Predators holding on to a win over to a lead on the Avalanche. They are 6.5 minutes into the third period as we do this podcast. Martin Necas' 22nd of the season got the Avalanche within a goal. Kings lead the Ducks. Why am I giving you a scoreboard? Podcasts are timeless. But special teams, to get back to the initial point. Special teams for Carolina, although the power play has been getting significantly better of late, special teams have not been good. If you look at even the power play, yes, there have been some bad years, but the power play has largely been good under Rod Brind'Amour. It's been a top 10 power play when it hasn't been a disaster. And yes, there are a couple of years in there where it has been a disaster, and the beginning of this one was no good. But 4 out of 5 in the power play. We know it's up to 21%. The penalty kill was 5 for 5. And yes, Jacob Slavin definitely matters. So a lot of good signs from tonight. Carrier, probably not tomorrow. Maybe we see him Monday afternoon against the Buffalo Sabres. But Carolina looked the part tonight. They finished the job tonight. And that's what tonight was about. It was about getting to your game first, which they did. It was about getting a lead on the scoreboard, which they did. Did they give it back? Yes. Good goal for Florida. Great follow-up save for Bussi to keep it 1-1. And then Carolina flexed on Florida the rest of the way. And this was a game that could have gone the other way. There were some chippy moments, but that's all good. That is all good in the hood. Kings, what am I doing? So, look, just a lot of really good things about this game. And again, for the Hurricanes to just answer all the questions in their own mind. Now what you got to do is you got to go do it again. So Carolina will be in New Jersey. The Devils have been playing better. They are still significantly out of a playoff spot, but the Devils have been playing better. They have 50 points on the season. Right now, the playoff cut line is 54. So they're not that far out. There are just a bunch of games in between, a bunch of teams in between. So got to validate this in New Jersey by playing a similar game. Here's what we know about the Hurricanes and the Devils when they play. Carolina has taken advantage of New Jersey. They absolutely have. And they can do it again. But you have to get to your game. The Devils are really good. They have not gotten great goaltending. I'm going to guess without knowing who's going to start. I'm going to guess that it'll be Jake Allen. Right now, Jacob Markstrom just is awful. Although maybe Carolina ran out of goals tonight. They scored 9 of them. That is insanity. By the way, worth pointing out that the Hurricanes seem to be getting better in the faceoff circle, right? They just seem to be getting better in the faceoff circle, and that is a very big deal. I think we actually might have already addressed that. So at this point, maybe it's best that I simply shut up. But I just want to get the number that they were tonight before tonight's game in the faceoff circle. Carolina was that's not that. Carolina in the faceoff circle was 50.3% on the season. So that goes slightly up or stays the same because, there are not that many faceoffs in the game tonight. But the Hurricanes, I think, were about 57%. So at least now, after being sub 500 for a while, Carolina's starting to get back on the good side of things in the faceoff circle. Shouts to our guy in Perth, Patagonia in Argentina. How about that? Wake Forest, not anywhere near Argentina. Vero Beach, Florida. Denver, Colorado. Pittsburgh, North Carolina. Whitby, Ontario. Pendleton, South Carolina. And Taiwan. All right. We're in the East. We're in the eastern part of the world. We are in the southern hemisphere. We're north of the border. Very nice. All right, we got to go. Appreciate all of your time. Now I got to do is do it again against the Devils. We have been brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it is for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. No place like it. Sammy Hanna and his crew do a great job. Until tomorrow when the Hurricanes have to do this again. Let's hope they have some goals left. I'm Adam Gold. See you down the road.